Yes, sir. Once again, yet another Rooted in Sports Tuesday. And as you can see, we got our unofficial third co-host with us today, and the one and only Mr. Isaiah Kit. Man, Isaiah, how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good. As always. Greatly appreciate you, whether it's you or Kenny, uh, inviting me, bringing me on, talk about some sports. That makes my day. So I'm excited. How about you?
Oh man, it's all good, man. Always a pleasure to have you on. Kenny probably he gonna, take care of a few things here and there, you know what I'm saying? So, we're just gonna keep the show rolling. Shout out to my boy, King Tiberius, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to him, man. I hope all is well. Peace and love to him. We're gonna, keep it real sweet, real simple today. We're gonna talk about Eric Bieniemy, the former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, now moving on, taking the same position with the Washington Commanders. I still want to say football team. I want to say Redskins with the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into that.
So I know a couple people that still say Redskins because it's like that's what know.
It just flow right. It just that's me too. It just flow right.
Yeah.
But took over the offensive coordinator position with the Washington Commanders. So we're gonna get into that a little bit. We're gonna talk about these Lakers and their season thus far, and with the moves that they made at the trade deadline. Do we really see them actually making the playoffs and possibly being a contender? And then here we are in the NBA at the All-Star break. A little past the midway point of the season, but we're going to do kind of our mid-season awards. So we're going to give our picks as far as NBA MVP, Coach of the Year, Sixth-Man, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. So we're going to run through those real quickly and where we think, those decisions stand right now currently in the NBA season. So, yeah, we're going to give y'all a little bit of content, man. Won't be before you long, but yeah, man, without further ado, you ready, bro?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, well, we're going to hit this little intro, and then we're going to come back and get right into it. Man, I love our intro, man. It just, really gets me going. You know what I'm saying? I feel, so official. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you hear Wayne on Undisputed or you hear First Take or whatever. It's like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, we're gonna jump right into it. As I just mentioned, Eric Bieniemy, former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know about his struggles that he's had as far as getting a head coaching job, and that's for various reasons, which I'm sure we'll dive into. Yeah. But recently he took what's pretty much a lateral move for him, and he left the defending Super Bowl champions to go to a situation with the Washington Commanders where there's some pieces there, but it's not like, they're not Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot I can say about this. It's really crazy that a guy who's been that successful in one place, even felt like, he was being slighted so much that he still needed to prove himself. But I guess I'll let you go first, man. So tell me, I guess kind of a twofold question. I guess it's pretty obvious, but why do you think Eric Bieniemy still doesn't have a head coaching job? And then moving forward, how do you see the fit, and do you see him possibly being successful with the Washington Commanders now?
I think this question it can be obvious, but I think the answer itself is really deep, and you have to really go in depth. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say, well, first, it's hard for you not to think that it's not because of his race.
Yeah,
he's a black man. Like it's just hard. Like it's just hard, and this goes into that point where I've heard people say, well, You know who the biggest reason why Eric Bieniemy hasn't got a head coaching job is because of Andy Reid. But I'm like, if that's the case, what happened to Matt Nagy? He got the Chicago Bears job.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you got a lot of background with Matt Nagy, but Matt Nagy, he got the Bears job.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson got the Eagles job. He won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, and I love Doug Peterson. I love me some Doug Peterson. I think he's really creative. But he won the Super Bowl with Philadelphia. Then he got fired. Then he got another job in Jacksonville.
Yep.
And then last year, I think one of the other like assistant coaches that help out with offense, they got a head coaching job under Andy Reid. So we say, okay, it's Andy Reid because it's Andy's fault because Andy, we know that he comes out and he openly said, like after the Super Bowl, he talked about the game plan in what happened in the second half in terms of like who dialed those red zone calls up, and he was like, it's kind of like it's an all hands on deck type of thing. So it kind of like diminishes and take away from Eric Bieniemy. But I look at, like I just said, I named a few guys who were in the same predicament as Eric Bieniemy. I would argue did not have quite the same success as being the OC.
Absolutely didn't. Absolutely didn't.
And they got coaching jobs. Yet this is another off season where Eric B misses out on a coaching job. And I've noticed something. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but Kansas City, since Mahomes has been a starter, they have essentially been Super Bowl contenders since he's been a starter over the last 5 years, essentially. So you know what I did? I went back and I looked at the past 5 Super Bowl. You look back at the past 5 Super Bowl matches, offensive coordinators.
Crazy, I did the same thing, bro.
Look, Pats versus Rams. Zach Taylor, Josh McDaniels. Zach Taylor has a Cincinnati job. Obviously, Josh McDaniels took him a little bit longer to get the job because of what he did to Indianapolis a couple years back. But now he has the Raiders job. And
that's another story in itself that he did that to even and still got an opportunity. And Bieniemy can't get one.
And granted, and look, he failed in Denver.
Yeah.
So next matchup, Kansas City, San Francisco, Mike McDaniel. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy was on the other side of that. But Mike McDaniels, I don't know if anybody know, you probably can't tell just by looking at him at first glance, but he's biracial. He's biracial. He's not I'm sure first, like I said, at first glance, you look at Mike McDaniels like he's a white guy. But no, look, he's biracial. So Mike McDaniels, he got a head coaching job. KC, Tampa Bay, guess what? 2 black offensive coordinators, obviously Eric B, Byron Leftwich. He got fired from his job this past season. And he was the OC in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Cincinnati, LA Rams. Brian Cunningham, he missed out on a job, but I heard he impressed a lot of teams, and essentially he's going to be one of the hotter names along with Ben Johnson, the Lions offense coordinator next year.
Yep.
He's going to be one of the hotter, sexier names next offseason. So then with the Rams, you look at Kevin O'Connell. He got a job.
Just got a job in Minnesota. Yep.
And then we look at this year's Super Bowl, Kansas City versus Philadelphia. Obviously, Eric B was on the same side. Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Starkin, he gets the coach job. So you see the trend. If you're an offensive coordinator in this league, and it's just so by chance that your team gets to the Super Bowl, you ain't got to win the Super Bowl. If your team makes it to the Super Bowl, you are essentially guaranteed a head coaching job the next cycle.
You surely go to the top of the coaching list. You're surely the hottest name for sure.
And like I said, Brian Cunningham from Cincinnati, he didn't get a coaching job after the Super Bowl, but he was merely close. And like I said, these next couple off seasons, maybe the next off season, he's going to be a name that's going to be on top. That's going to be on top of a lot of teams, list. So it's hard to convince me that it's not about race, because time and time again, whether it's being an assistant under Andy Reid or being an OC under Andy Reid, that didn't stop Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson from getting the job. or whether you get to the Super Bowl as an offense coordinator where he's done it 3 times, he's won 2 Super Bowls, and yet he still hasn't had a job opportunity. Yeah. And people say, well, he don't do good in interviews. Well, he surely did a damn good job with the Washington interview, right?
Clearly,
they gave him the job. So it's hard to convince me that it's not about race. And then to your second half of your question, in terms of his success and what that looks like in Washington, I'll say this about Eric Bieniemy. All money ain't good money. Okay? All
can the church say amen?
Yes. All money ain't good money. And I will say with Eric Bieniemy in Washington, like I said, I live in DC. I'm from DC. DC, the Washington Commanders, the Washington organization as a whole, even through in their glory days, they had a hard time at developing quarterbacks. And I look at now, because it looks like they're going full head of steam with Sam Howell. Now,
so and that was going to be a question. So they do seem to be trying to. I guess they're going to see what they got in Sam Howell, huh? Guess he impressed them enough at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he played in 1 game and he didn't really get much of a shot. And I just think it's like, okay, he tried with Carson Wentz. They was paying him $29 million. He played half of the season, didn't really bring much. And then Taylor Heineke, he's a good spark plug. But he's not your guy.
Is he really the long-term option?
That's the long-term answer. So they're going to go with Sam Howell. But I tell you this, Sam Howell had a tremendous sophomore year at North Carolina. And, I break down these quarterbacks in college and, pre-draft process and so forth. Sam Howell had a really good sophomore year. Junior year, he loses his 2 running backs. He loses some weapons. Junior year, everything goes down. Complete percentage goes down. Passing yards go down. Passing touchdowns go down. Interceptions went up. So my pre-draft process or projections or grade wasn't particularly high on him. It kind of reminds me of like a little bit of Case Keenum and Baker Mayfield. Like he's in that Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum type of build. Right. So he's not going to ever wow you with the arm talent. He's not going to wow you with his athleticism. Accurate enough. I mean, I feel like you got to be accurate in this league. That's just a box you have to check. I don't know how this projects with Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. And like I said, he's probably getting paid more money. So that's why I say all money ain't good money. But I just look at
and maybe more control. Maybe he does have more full control of the offense and the decision making offensively as far as game planning and schemes and stuff as well.
Maybe he does, but you left Patrick Mahomes, who has more Super Bowl MVPs than Sam Howell has NFL starts. I mean, I think it's the route to a head coaching job. I think would be much more efficient if he stuck it out in Kansas City, because I now look at. You look at Andy's getting older.
Yeah. But I'll get to it in a minute, but I also wonder, is that the case in Washington with Ron Rivera as well? I wonder maybe is there some information? Yeah, maybe is there some information that we don't know as far as, Ron Rivera and possibly him maybe stepping down and maybe he sees an open window to a head coaching spot there. I don't know.
Well, that'll be the only benefit. If that's the case, where Ron Rivera is on the hot seat and Washington has another unfulfilling, underachieving year, but Eric Bieniemy shows some promise, then yes, that's the upside. I think that's the one benefit. But in terms of looking at what he has to work with offensively, and it's not that Washington got some decent play. Like they got Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, love the wide receivers.
They got 3, I think, solid, good wide receivers.
McLaurin, Samuel, I like Dotson. Yeah.
But we all know this league is hard to win without a quarterback. And you just don't know what you have in Sam Howell. So you can have good weapons. You can have pretty good weapons around you and so forth. But if the quarterback spot isn't right, then it's really hard to win in this league and to put up points in this league week in, week out consistently.
Word. Let me say that I agree with everything that you said. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say this. First of all, shout out to our boy King Tiberius, aka the host of the Sports Inclusive Podcast, who's commenting as we speak here. And he's just giving his thoughts, but shout out to him. All right. Let's call a spade a spade. Although there may be other factors, i.e., some of the things Kenny mentioned here in the comments, like networking, and maybe Eric Bieniemy isn't as popular in NFL circles. Although there may be some other things in the equation, I still believe that at the end of the day, 80 to 90% of the reason why he's not an NFL head coach yet is because he's black. Let's just call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? You mentioned Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson, who were two former offensive coordinators under Andy Reid, and how they were able to get a head coaching job. But yet Eric Bieniemy, I would argue that he's been more successful in his 5 years as offensive coordinator under Andy Reid. He's been more successful than the both of them. But yet Eric Bieniemy can't get a job. And I've said this often. It seems like with Eric Bieniemy, for whatever reason, they seem to be moving the goalposts, because all you hear being mentioned is, Andy Reid's calling the plays. Andy Reid is coming up with the game plans or whatnot. You didn't hear those things when Doug Peterson got his job. You didn't hear those things when Matt Nagy got his job. Mm-hmm. That wasn't an issue for anyone. But now all of a sudden with Eric Bieniemy, it's an issue. At the end of the day, we look at his resume. He was offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs for 5 years. In his first season there, that was Patrick Mahomes' best season. That was the 50 touchdown, over 5,000 yards, MVP season. MVP for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, yeah. And 5 seasons there, over the entirety of those 5 seasons, they've been the number 1 ranked offense in the league. They've been to 5 consecutive AFC championship games, to 3 Super Bowls, and they've won 2 of them. Not just OCs under Andy Reid. There's not another offensive coordinator in the league with that resume. Not one. Granted, he does have Patrick Mahomes.
But like you said, that was Patrick Mahomes' first year.
It was.
That was his first year. And we didn't know.
And I'll say this as well, and one of the arguments that we have in our sports chat is about the coaches between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. And I said all that to say, don't get me wrong, as and we both agree, we both think that currently Andy Reid is the best head coach in the league currently. Not all time, currently.
Yes.
However, we can't look over the fact that even though Andy Reid was very successful in Philadelphia, Andy Reid doesn't have a championship without Eric Bieniemy. I mean, we can say all we want about how successful he was in Philadelphia, and he was, but call a spade a spade. He doesn't have a championship without Eric Bieniemy. And if you want to punish Eric Bieniemy for having Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, then you have to do the same thing for Andy Reid too, because Andy Reid didn't get one without Patrick Mahomes either. Right. But people still hold Andy Reid at such an elite company. But yet Eric Bieniemy, who was the offensive coordinator throughout that same time, all of a sudden, it's all Andy Reid. You know what I'm saying? He's not calling the plays. He's just helping Andy Reid's scheme, And I think that's unfair to him, because any other offensive, and you mentioned the guys, Zach Taylor's gotten the job, Kevin O'Connell's gotten the job, Steichen just from this past Super Bowl, the Eagles offensive coordinator, he's got the job with the coach now, Mike McDaniels. Like, all of these other offensive coordinators have gotten jobs. Even with Mike McDaniels, I find it hard to believe that Shanahan isn't calling a lot of those plays. You know what I'm saying?
That was my biggest knock on Mike McDaniels this upcoming year. Now he proved himself for the most part of the year that like, okay, he can coach in this league. But that was my knock. I was like, everybody's raving about this Mike McDaniels guy, but I don't know. It seems like Kyle's fingerprints are still embedded within this 49ers offense. So I gotta wait and see to really evaluate how good of a coach he was. So that was my same argument that I used with Mike McDaniels.
And even with that being said, looking at that situation, Mike McDaniels didn't do a bad job at all. Like I'm one to argue that if Tua doesn't get hurt, they're in the playoffs.
If
you know
Tua
what I'm saying?
Does not get hurt,
The first maybe 6 to 8 weeks of the season, Tua looked like an MVP candidate. You know what I'm saying? And I got to give Mike McDaniels a lot of credit for that. Yes. But I say that to say that in a situation where we both agree maybe he wasn't even the one calling plays and he's still successful, why can't the NFL look at Eric Bieniemy and say, well, we're kind of seeing this thing be successful from a guy that was in a similar situation. Why can't we give this guy a chance?
Well, here's the thing. I think even in because we know who makes these decisions. Owners, executives.
And there's not a single owner that looks like us.
Right. Even the good-hearted white people who are conscious of social life and just society today, deep down inside, there's still some type of feeling where it's like, you're good enough to be my running backs coach. You're good enough to be my receivers coach. You're good enough to fire up and coach my defense. But actually to be a head coach and a leader of men, actually a leader of men who like 75% of those men look like Eric Bieniemy. But you're not good enough. Look. You're not good enough to lead those men who look like you. But you're good enough to be our positions coach, our coordinator, out to fire up our defense. But the 75% of the dudes that's in our locker room that look like you're not good enough to lead them.
And then here's my other thing, and this is why ultimately I didn't necessarily like the move to Washington. Now, as you mentioned, they got some pieces. I love the wide receiver trio. I love Gibson. I love Robinson and running back. They got some pieces.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously the quarterback situation. There's a ton of uncertainty around Sam Howell, and the same can be said for Taylor Heineke, and clearly the same can be said for Carson Wentz. Okay, so they don't necessarily. Maybe they look, and Kenny kind of mentioned this in the comments. Maybe they look to the draft. Maybe they do get another quarterback in the draft. But I guess here's my thing with that though. Once again, Eric Bieniemy in 5 seasons as the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator, they went to 5 straight NFC championship games, went to 3 Super Bowls, they won 2, and over his 5-year span, they had the number 1 offense in the NFL. If that resume can't get you a head coaching job, what more can he do? What better can he do in Washington that'll make somebody say, you know what? Maybe we got to get this guy a chance. Well, even if like I said, the goalpost is moved. Like he can't be middle of the pack there. He can't be middle of the pack there. And the team needs to be successful. And there's a possibility because they were 8-1 last year.
Maybe that's a possibility. But their division.
It's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. I think I always say it like they have by far the worst quarterback in the division or the worst quarterback situation in the division. They have the worst
quarterbacks league.
Right now, if you're asking me to rank the NFC East coaches, Ron Rivera is probably last.
It's hard to argue that.
You got Sirianni, you got Mike McCarthy, and we can feel a way about those guys. But
and they, if I'm not mistaken, Dabo won Coach of the Year, didn't he?
Dayball is one of the hotter names in
yeah.
coaching. So you can, I don't know. I feel like it's an uphill battle. Like you said, he's gonna have to turn Sam Howell to a superstar.
Yeah. Or if they get a quarterback in the draft, whatever, he's gonna have like they can't be middle of the pack as an offense. And possibly right. They can't be middle of the pack as an offense and have a right at 500 record or below 500. If they don't, like, they have to have a winning record. They need to make the playoffs. This has to be a top 10 offense. And like you said, they're in. I mean, and it's crazy to say this, but the NFC East is probably the toughest division in the NFL. They were, if I'm not mistaken, they were the only division that didn't have a team with a losing record, if I'm not mistaken, because they were 8-1, and the Giants were 9-7-1, something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a tough situation, and if he couldn't get a head coaching job as successful as he was in Kansas City, how can we possibly see him being that successful in Washington? And B, how can we see this team, being even more successful and growing on that success as a team when every team in the division is going, in an upward direction? You know what I'm saying? The Eagles are going to be great. You can say what you want about the Cowboys, but they're a double-digit win team. The Giants are going in the right direction. Like, it's going to be tough for him, and that's why I didn't like the move unless he knows something that we don't know. Maybe yes. Ron Rivera is on the hot seat, or maybe he is considering, stepping down sometime soon or something. Maybe, he's going into that situation. But to your point, if that's the case, you could have said the same thing about Andy Reid, and he'd have been better off just sticking it out there and waiting. Andy Reid, maybe another 2 or 3 years. Maybe Andy Reid decides, hey, I don't want to, I'm gonna go ahead and step away. And Eric Bieniemy could have stepped into a much better situation there with a generational talent at quarterback.
We talking about you getting the keys to a Toyota, a RAV4, or the keys to a Rolls Royce. I mean, like, exactly. That's literally what it comes down to. You want to take the Washington job, and you deal with the new, because it's probably gonna be new ownership coming in soon. Like I said, the quarterback situation, uncertainty, no matter where you look. And then, like, historically, over the past 25, 30 years, Washington as a franchise has been one of the bottom feeders in this league. So you want the keys to a RAV4, and then no disrespect if you have a RAV4, but you want the keys to a RAV4 or a Rolls Royce,
the Tesla. You know what I'm saying?
Like that's what it is.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I wish him the best of luck, from one black man to another. I want to see him get ahead. I want to see him be successful.
I want to see him be successful in Washington.
I do too.
But it's an uphill battle.
As it's going to be an uphill climb. It's going to be tough, but I wish Eric Bieniemy the best of luck, and Washington Commanders, I wish them the best of luck. I know you a Cowboys fan, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wish him the best of luck, man. I hope this decision works out for him, and best of luck to him, man.
I love Kenny's optimism. I love his optimism.
Ah, man. Hey, we'll see. And he may be right. You know what I'm saying? Not because, I mean, he makes valid points. He may not be the best in some NFL circles and as far as networking goes. That may, that could be, a very valid point.
I think those are like other like sub reasonings. But I think the main reason, like, it's just hard to like deny it. I think the main reason is like the bulk of it is like he's black, and like,
yeah,
you look at some of the other assistants and OCs that have done what he's done under the same coach, they've gotten coaching jobs. What's different about him?
Only one thing.
Only one thing. I don't know how else to cut it.
And then here he is right here. Think about this next year. 2-3 head coaching jobs open. If Eric puts up a good offensive product with this team, he's getting one. We hope so, but we can't just assume that because he just did that for the past 5 years.
Glass half full type of guy right there.
Yeah,
I like
we'll see though. But yeah, man, we're gonna go ahead and get into a little bit of NBA now. We're gonna switch topics, switch leads, get into a little bit of NBA, and specifically right now, we're gonna talk about the Lakers. I meant to pull their record up, but I believe right now they're like 13th in the 13th in the Western Conference.
Yes.
They're about 7 games under 500 or something like that.
Yes.
And obviously, I mean, they really struggled. They've underachieved.
They're 5 games under 500.
5 games under 500. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, they're really struggling. They've underachieved. 27 and 32. Yeah. So, I mean, at 5 games under 500, they've underachieved. They did just have, what's probably the highlight of their season right now in LeBron James becoming the all-time scoring leader in the NBA. But even that game, it was kind of a piss poor effort around it, and they lost that game.
Yeah.
So, however, they did make, they were very active during the trade deadline. They got rid of a few guys, like namely, one Russell Westbrook, Pat Bev, Thomas Bryant. Brought in some guys like, in particular, D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley. They had brought in Rui Hachimura, a week or two before the actual trade deadline. So I guess I want to know from you, man, how do you feel about this Lakers team moving forward? And do you think that they could possibly make the playoffs and even, make some noise in the playoffs?
Well, I think if LeBron and Anthony Davis can be healthy for this next, like, I think there's 27, 28 games left. There's just under 30 games left. So this last 25, 29 game stretch, if they can reel it all
23 games.
23. So 23. I upped it a little bit. So this next 23 game stretch, if they can be healthy, I think they can make some noise. I think they can make the playoffs. Let me say that first.
Mm-hmm.
I think them getting a playoff slot or getting into the play-in and then getting into the playoffs, I think that's definitely a possibility with this new look Lakers squad that they have. I like the 2 additions that I really, really like. First, Rui Hachimura. I think Shaq said that he didn't know who he was. I knew Rui Hachimura because I watched basketball, but he also played with the Wizards.
Right.
And he's a guy, he's a forward. He's your modern, like, power forward, athletic, can defend multiple positions, can shoot the ball, can put the ball on the deck and finish around the rim.
Mm-hmm.
I think that type of youth the Lakers were missing. They didn't have a forward outside of really Anthony Davis that was, like, quote unquote modern. Like, LeBron is older.
Very, very diverse. They can do a lot of things with them, offensively and defensively.
They were missing that. They were missing a two-way guy.
A bit of a Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm.
Right, a two-way guy with that size at 6'9", 6'10", that can do the things and that show the skill that he has. They were missing that. Their roster was older. He's younger, so he brings some youth to the roster. So, like, he's gonna definitely, like I said, health has been a big thing since LeBron has been a Laker. Really, he's averaged about 55 games a year. So, like, it's helped. Like, he's been kind of nicked up, banged up since he's been a Laker. Anthony Davis, that's just been the story of his career, where I call him, he's a game of operation. Like the game of operation where you gotta fix the like.
I literally get, like, when I watch the Lakers, like, Lord forbid if, like, him and somebody else jump for a rebound or they run, like, I literally get scared, like, oh my, he's gonna throw his back out, or he might come down wrong. I just think the worst automatically.
But then I also look at a guy like D'Angelo Russell, where it's career highs, and it's funny. It's like I call it like big market bias, because before he got traded to the Lakers, he had career high in points per game, career high in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. That didn't get highlighted until that's big city, big notable brand, big market bias, right?
Right.
But I think a guy like D'Angelo Russell, his skill set he's like a prime, like, he's a pure hooper. Like, you can see it. Like, I watched the Pelicans game. You can see his feel for the game. Like, great pass. He's always had the skill of being a pretty good playmaker, I think. Just the natural control for the game. And like I said, his shooting splits, they have increased this year. So he's always been on the side of inconsistency. That's his thing. He can easily be a guy that can give you 19, 20 and 8, 20 and 9 if he's the guy on your main ball squad. But it's really inconsistent. It's night and day for him. With LeBron and AD on the floor, that probably takes that's definitely going to take some attention off of him. And it'll allow him to be more consistent on his craft and what makes him D'Angelo Russell. So I like those two acquisitions. And I think those two acquisitions, they're going to go a big part in what the Lakers can do in terms of making the playoffs and seeing what they can, making some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I love the acquisitions as well. I think obviously the most important thing for the Lakers, as you mentioned, is the health of LeBron James and Anthony Davis for this last stretch run of 23 games. They're going to need both of those guys on the floor playing every game. No, the time for load managing is done for those two, especially if they plan on making the playoffs. To your points, I loved the moves. Obviously, I think it was addition by subtraction, getting off of Russell Westbrook. And I'm going to show him a little love because Russell Westbrook did really start to embrace that sixth man role and really start to embrace, being that first guy off the bench and being with that second unit and, just kind of taking a step back. I think he was doing the best that he could in that role. With that being said, Russ is still Russ, you know what I'm saying?
And it was never going to work.
It wasn't. And he's still, and this kills me, man. I talk to people and this kills me, man, because they'll look and they'll see a stat line and it'll be like, man, Russ had 19 points and 8 assists in 26 minutes, bro. But they fail to keep strolling down that stat line and look at, okay, he had 8 assists, but he had 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
They fail to keep on going, and you see that plus minus, and he's like minus 14 or something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I always tell people, stats are cool and all, but I'm an eye test kind of guy. You got to trust your eyes.
Yes.
And we talked about that game against Oklahoma City. I watched that entire game, and you looked at his stat line when he had 20 something points that game. Look at his stat line, you'd be like, oh, okay. But he had 8 turnovers that game. And watching the game, it's just there really hasn't been much maturation in his game from year 1 to year 13 or 14, whatever he's in now. Yeah. He's still making the same mistakes. He's still getting the ball off the rim and going 100 miles an hour with his head down. He's still jumping in the air and then trying to pass the ball. He's still allowing defenders to read his passes. It's a lot of the same mistakes for him. Yeah. So it's kind of addition by subtraction. Also, I think that moving forward, now that Russ is Russ is gone, I know you still have, point guard, so to speak, and D'Angelo Russell and Dennis Schroeder. But I think this will kind of allow, hopefully, I think they should allow LeBron to be more on the ball and be more of their primary playmaker and decision maker, because both Dennis Schroeder and D'Angelo Russell are both two guys who can play very well off the ball and can be aggressive as scorers. And I think, and going back to the bubble year when they won the championship, people forget, if I'm not mistaken, LeBron led the league in assists that year. He was getting about 10 or 11 assists a game that year their primary ball handler, their point guard, their playmaker. And I think that, they kind of got away from that. And I think that was really the best for him to be their playmaker and for them to ultimately really run their offense through Anthony Davis. Speaking of D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley, I love those pickups. Yeah. I love those pickups. Both of those guys are top 6 or 7 in the league in 3-pointers made this season. Actually, I think Malik Beasley is like 3rd or 4th. Yeah, I think it's like Steph, Buddy Hield, and then Malik Beasley or something like that. So that's something that they absolutely needed. A dead eye shooter. And then another guy, D'Angelo Russell, who can also knock down a 3. So that's going to really open up. Yeah. So that's going to really open up some driving lanes for LeBron, and it's going to really open up some passing lanes or open up the lane in general and give Anthony Davis more opportunity to operate, because now you might be a little more hesitant to double off of a Malik Beasley or D'Angelo Russell than you was doubling off of Russell Westbrook or Patrick Beverly, you know, who, crazy enough, is coming back home from the sign with my Bulls. But yeah, so I like those moves. And then I like the Rui Hachimura move. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He gives them a lot of diversity on both ends of the floor. And then another move, I'm just kind of interested to see how it works. You know, they did pick up Mo Bamba as well.
They did.
And I'm interested because, you know, Mo Bamba is a guy who's battled a lot of injuries or whatnot. But as it's been known for quite some time now, you know, Anthony Davis hates playing the 5. So I'm just interested to see, you know, maybe can Mo Bamba kind of step in and maybe shield Anthony Davis a little bit, and maybe against some teams who have, you know, a prototypical 5, i.e. Denver or Embiid and Philly or somebody, you know, if they play at Minnesota and he comes back, maybe I'll call Anthony Towns. I'm just interested, can he be that man in the middle and take on those responsibilities and kind of, you know, take a little bit of that defensive pressure off of Anthony Davis being that guy, you know, around the paint. So I'm just interested in that dynamic. I know they had Thomas Bryant. Apparently, Thomas Bryant requested a trade. Apparently, they said
it kills me. I barely like it when star players request trades.
Mm-hmm.
It kills me when I see rotation players request trades, and it's like, okay.
Well, I'll give them. You know what? I'll say this though. I'll give them some credit, because in that time period when Anthony Davis missed games, Thomas Bryant played really well.
He's productive. Yeah, he can stretch the floor. He's a motor guy.
He is. He played really well during that time Anthony Davis was out. And according to sources, you know, not that he felt like he should be taken Anthony Davis's minutes. He knew that. But he felt like he had earned the right to at least be on the floor with Anthony Davis. And once AD got back, his minutes just automatically declined back to where they were, and he didn't want that. And so, you know, ultimately he ends up in Denver,
which I think is a good fit. I know. I was going to talk about the Mo Bamba really quickly.
Go ahead.
I never forget it. A scout was telling me, because they followed Mo Bamba in high school. Mm-hmm. Scout was always telling me. He said,
and I think he went to. Did he go to Texas? I think he went to Texas. Yeah,
went to Texas, and he told me, he was like, people look, because he went to Texas. I think he was a lottery pick, and he was telling, he was like, people looking at Mo Bamba to be this 20 and 10 type of guy. Mm-hmm. That ain't who he is. Like, that's just not who he. Like, I've never.
I think if you watch this game, if you really have a true eye for the game of basketball and you watch them, you can tell that. Because, and then if I'm not mistaken, he was toward the top of the rankings. And I could be wrong, but I believe that was the same year DeAndre Ayton came out as well. I think both of those guys were kind of like the two top bigs in that, and kind of in that class. And you could always tell who the better big was. Like if you have any eye for the game and look past the size, you can look at the skill level and tell Mo Bamba was never that guy.
Yeah, but it was just like, it's like people looking for him to be that guy. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be that guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to, like, kind of the role that you are kind of speaking into existence with him in terms of helping out, shielding AD, playing some minutes, playing some critical minutes at the 5, rim protecting, you know, being a lob threat. Like, that's who he is. That's who he's suited to be. And like you said, like, even with Aiden, like, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I had higher expectations for DeAndre Ayton. He's a 19 and 10 type of guy, so I'm not gonna get mad at the fact of the way he's turned out as a player. But you can clearly tell that he was better than Mo Bamba. Yeah. So like you said, I think it's really good that he can play the 5, which Anthony Davis doesn't want to. I will never understand it, to save my goddamn life, because he's better at the 5. Like he's
a matchup nightmare at the 5.
He's a matchup nightmare at the 5, but that's neither here nor there. Like you said about Mo Bamba, he'll play the 5, he'll get minutes at the 5, And I think that's a role that best suits him.
And then I'll say this though. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I predict. I do think that they're going to be in the top 10. So I do think they're going to make the play in.
Okay. So who do you think they bypass actually? Because they have in order to get to 10, they got Portland, Utah, OKC in front of them. All three, which are pretty young teams. You remember Utah started off really good, started off really hot this season, and I was like, they'll flake out at some point.
We all knew that. Yeah. We all knew that.
Now they're 11. So who do you think they bypass? And you can go.
So right now, I'm gonna tell you the team that's going to drop out. Actually, I think two of those teams are going to drop out.
Okay.
I think New Orleans has just been riddled with injuries. Zion Williamson is going to miss multiple more weeks now. And that's another story, another topic for another day.
Yeah.
But they're at 7th now. They're a game over 500. I think that they'll kind of fall back to the pack. And I think they ultimately, even though they started the season so well, and I still have high hopes for that team. I still think they're a really great team, but I think they're going to come back to the pack. So I think they'll fall out. And then, if I'm being honest, I think OKC is going to fall out. I think because I think two of these teams. I think the Lakers are going to in that 7 to 10 range. I think the Lakers are going to be in there.
Okay.
And call me crazy, I think Portland's going to be in there. Dame Lillard since 2023. Dame Lillard has been ridiculous.
Yes.
Like otherworldly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
agree.
I don't know if people have been watching it, and I've been a Dame Lillard fan for years. Okay. Yeah. Although people have been watching this kid, but Jesus Christ. But yeah, I think ultimately, New Orleans, who's in 7, I think they're going to fall out of the top 10. And I think OKC, who's in 10th, nice young team, young story. Their best days are still ahead of them. But I think they're going to fall out. And I think the Lakers are going to get in. I think Portland's going to get in. If AD and LeBron can stay healthy, and now with the group of guys that they have around with D'Angelo Russell and Beasley, Hachimura, Troy Brown's coming in, starting to get them some good minutes. Austin Reeves will be back, who always gives them great minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If they can stay healthy, I think that they're going to be in that play-in. I think they'll ultimately win in the play-in and be one of the top 8 seeds. And I look at it like this, I think Denver is kind of a step above the two teams behind them. But if I'm a Memphis or a Sacramento and I got to run into the Lakers, I can't say I could pick. If either of those two teams are playing the Lakers in the first round, I can't say I pick either one of them. Memphis, ever since Jordan started running his mouth, their play has declined.
Look. You know what happened when John said, they asked him like, hey, you're out to the final. He's like, we're good out west. the Western Conference GM said, hey, hold up. Hold my beer. Hold my beer. Let me. Phoenix made a move. Dallas made a move.
Talking about stand by.
Yeah, like okay, let's hold that thought.
Pump the brakes, kid. What have y'all done? But yeah, I mean, and then Sacramento, who's at 3 right now, overachieving. They're and I'm gonna get back to them in a little while.
Me too.
but overachieving. But I mean, and they're a great story, real feel good story. But they're still young, inexperienced. Would I really pick them over a Lakers team? I think two teams to look out for coming out of the play-in if they're healthy, 100% healthy. Mm-hmm. If I'm either any of those top teams, Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, and these two teams get into the play-in and ultimately make the playoffs, and they're healthy, I don't want to see the Lakers, and I don't want to see Golden State. Yeah. If either of those teams are healthy and make it out the play-in, and you got to meet one of those teams in the first round, it's going to be a long series, It's
going to be a long series.
Word.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's our take on the Lakers, man. So ultimately, wish them the best, wish them health. They need to go on a real run. They're 5 games below 500 right now. They're in 13th place. So we'll see what happens, man. And now, obviously, we're still in the midst of the All-Star break. Like we said, I mean, the Lakers only got 23 games
23
left in the
games.
season.
Crazy.
So the season's about 3/4 of the way over.
Yeah.
But I thought we would just kind of go ahead and get into some mid-season awards and just really kind of talk about at this point in the season, and obviously there's still some time to go, but at this point in the season, as far as some of the major awards, who would we give them to? Okay. So I don't know, where should I start? I guess we'll save MVP for last.
Okay.
So how about this? Let's do Rookie of the Year first. Okay. So right now, up to date, right now, 2023 Rookie of the Year. Who do you got?
I got Paolo Banchero. He was. Yes. I remember we did the NBA draft show. He was my.
That was a phenomenal show, by the way. Yeah, it was really fun.
Great show.
We will be doing it again.
So like he was my projected number 1 pick. I thought he was the most NBA ready. Like I think I said it on the stream. Like I compared him to Michael Beasley, with a better attitude.
That's a really good comparison.
Has it not panned out?
For those that maybe didn't see Michael Beasley or unfamiliar with his game, like it, let's just put it like this: it was a lot of the off the court stuff and the mental stuff that stopped him from being a star. But Michael Beasley has the tools. Still
has the tools. Yeah. If you can, you can catch him in one of these gyms. Still
got the tools.
And that's who I compare Paolo to. I mean, the frames really similar. There was obviously like some health scares, but you just I remember watching his first few games, seeing some highlights and just seeing how he was just so comfortable at scoring the basketball at such a young age.
Even in the summer league, it started like in the summer league. And
yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty I'm confident with this projection because this guy, he is, I think, like 6'9", 6'10", can put the ball on the deck, can really do, like, in terms of scoring the basketball, he does everything you want a forward to do in today's game. So there's no reason why I don't think he can be a star in this league. I mean, he's already a star in this league. It's just now like just maturing, the maturation process, getting in better shape. But he, like, in terms of scoring the basketball, putting the ball in the bucket and doing it at, I would say, at an efficient rate for such a young guy, he got to be our Rookie of the Year.
Obviously, I'm in full agreement. Paolo Banchero right now is easily the best rookie that's came into the league this year. He's getting you can say 20 points, averaging 19.9, but he's getting 20, 26 and 3. He's shooting about 42% from the field. Obviously he has some things to work on. He's 28% from the 3-point line, so just something to work on there. But yeah, man, I remember, I'm a basketball nut, watched him last year at Duke. And I guess for me personally, obviously you could see the talent was there, but I guess I questioned his motor because to me, like, and maybe it's just being at Duke and being, under Coach K. It was Coach K's last year, and being under Coach K, being around so much high level talent. Sometimes it kind of it can stunt you statistically or innately. You just kind of take a step back for the team. I remember coming into the draft, and obviously you can see the talent, but I questioned his motor, and I questioned if he had that dog in him, because it was times where I just didn't see him really like go get it, really be aggressive in the manner that, we've seen some guys previous to him, like, Zion or Jason Tatum or, some of the guys we've seen previous to him in that same position. Yeah. But it was like once he got to the summer league, it was like, okay, all right, this kid he's like, it's his time. Like you could just see his confidence was just so high, and then right into the season, to the beginning of the season, and it's just like his confidence level was so high. He's much more aggressive than what I've seen from him at Duke. like he's really looking to create his own offense now. And that the Orlando Magic, they kind of giving him the green light. I think they really have a star on their hands. They really have a nice piece, and I think he'll only continue to get better. He has all the physical tools. He's 6'10", 250 pounds. Like you said, he has a really solid handle. He's able to get to the rim really easily. He finishes well around the rim. Mid range is solid. Still needs to kind of work on that 3-point shot, but
yeah,
I mean the kid's still, what is he? He's 20 years old. He's just turned 20. So
yeah,
I mean the kid has all the potential in the world and a hell of a lot of time ahead of him, man. And yeah, I agree. There's some other rookies, making some noise. I'm going to mention one a little later, but yeah, Paolo Banchero is by far runaway rookie of the year right now. So we agree on that one. Let's do coach of the year. Let's do coach of the year right now. Who do you have as your coach of the year?
That's tough. I have two candidates, and I'm gonna choose one, but I'm gonna throw out both of them.
Okay.
First of the Boston Celtics, Joe Mazzulla.
Okay.
Mazzulla, he's done a good. He comes. I didn't think the Celtics will fall off that much because a lot of the, like, we know when it comes to basketball, it's like my guys are just better than your guys. And the Celtics, they have one of the better put together complete rosters in basketball. So I thought Ime Udoka, he did an excellent, terrific job for his first year as the Celtics coach. But I just looked at the talent. You got two emerging. You got a superstar in Jason Tatum. I feel like he's just notching his way closer and closer to that status. Jaylen Brown, not too far off. Jaylen, you got two top 20 NBA, like all NBA caliber type of guys with that roster. I didn't think there would be much fall off, but just thinking, all of the noise that came into the season, you watch the Celtics play any given night. It don't seem like it. Even at the beginning of the season, they started off really, really hot. It just don't seem like they're missing a beat. Mm-hmm. So I think with all of the noise coming in, like I said, the roster, the expectation is the expectation. This team was an NBA Finals. They lost an NBA Finals last year.
Yep.
It's looking like they're going to put themselves right back in a good position to be back in that same spot this upcoming year. So I can't overlook Mazzulla and what he's done so far with this Celtics squad, given all of the baggage coming into the season. I like Ime Udoka because he was he's a man's man.
Yeah. I think he's going to get another job again, though. I sure hope he does, but I think he will. I think somebody's going to give him a job.
Too good of a job not to, but that's another conversation. Mazzulla kind of resembles that, where players coach, players love him, players like him. There's some connectivity there. I thought that was the thing with Brad. I love Brad Stevens. I thought he was a basketball wizard.
Me too. But sometimes you just need, and that's what I said last year. I think sometimes you just need another voice because Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach.
Hell of a coach. You just need another hell of a basketball mind. As we see, he put this roster together. So, but Brad, they lost connectivity. So Mazzulla, and then the next guy, Mike Brown in Sacramento. We just talked about it. I mean, it's hard for you to overlook it. I always have liked Mike Brown.
Oh yeah,
Cavalier days.
A little time with the Lakers, I think. Yeah,
little time with the Lakers. Spent some time with the Warriors. Now in Sacramento. I've always liked Mike Brown as a coach. Now he has a young, I think, who's their rookie that they have?
Oh, Keegan Murray.
I had a scout tell me, because I was trying to figure out, because Paolo, we've already talked about Paolo, but then I'm like, oh, okay, like Keegan Murray, I had a scout tell me that he was like, Keegan Murray is the most complete player in this draft, and I was like,
you know who he reminds me of Al Horford, like kind of that, he's same build, same size. He can step out and hit the three. You know what I'm saying? He'll play a little tough around the rim if he needs to.
Rookies and 3-pointers made.
Yeah. He can shoot it. He can stroke it.
So I look at guys like Keegan Murray, obviously De'Aaron Fox, obviously Sabonis. Like you look at some of the pieces. They got some nice young pieces to work with in Sacramento, but nobody would have thought they would be third in the Western Conference right now.
Absolutely not.
So I think it's a 17. How many years? I think it's a 7. It's the longest playoff drought in NBA history.
Yeah,
currently.
since
it's like 16, 17 years.
I think it's a little longer than that. I feel like it's been since like
02?
03, 04. So about 20, yeah.
Almost 20. So you're pushing 20.
Yeah.
So
we're going back to like Weber and Bibby and Vidoc and Divock and them, yeah.
Yeah. So the mere fact that he has them in prime position, I would hope, unless it's like a colossal, colossal
collapse
disaster that happens, a collapse, they'll be a playoff team. Yeah. I think Mike Brown deserves some huge consideration.
So yeah, and ultimately that was my pick. I picked Mike Brown. I guess with Joe Mazzulla, and I do think he's doing a great job. Maybe this is wrong of me, but I guess I kind of feel like, Ime Udoka kind of already set the culture and set the mold. And so for him, his job was just to keep that train rolling. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer,
yeah,
Tony Dungy, John Gruden type of thing. Yeah.
He just needed to kind of keep that train rolling. And he is doing so, and he's doing a great job despite, the distractions that occur right leading up into the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that being said, man, like you said, nobody, if you'd have bet that, you'd be in the money right now. Nobody would have thought that Sacramento would be in third place in the Western Conference, in a loaded Western Conference. Now, I'll say this: do I think they'll stay that high? Probably not. But I do think that ultimately, I think they're going to end that playoff drought, and I think they'll be in the playoffs. And I think that a lot of that credit has to go to Mike Brown. This is a team who has had the talent. I think maybe over the past 2 or 3 seasons, this has always been one of those teams that's been on the verge. And, a lot of analysts are just saying, hey, look out for this team. This could be their playoff year or whatnot.
Right.
And now I think this year they've really exceeded that. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, De'Aaron Fox is playing extremely well. Sabonis is like a poor man's Jokic, because Sabonis is passing the hell out the ball too, what I'm saying? Not to mention he's one of the better rebounders in the league. I think he's averaging about 19 and 12 and about 7 assists or something. So, I mean, he's a very integral part in what they do. You mentioned Keegan Murray and, him just being a really integral part, coming in as a rookie and being that stretch forward and being able to knock down shots. I think they still got Kevin Huerter as another guy that knocks down shots. So, I mean, a really well put together team, and I think they just maybe they just needed a different voice. I know before them they had Luke Walton, and
trash.
He just wasn't getting it done.
Ass water, just ass water. This bad.
But yeah, and Mike Brown has been, obviously we know what he did with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then he had that little stint with the Lakers. He's one of the most respected men and coaches in this league. He's a really good defensive mind, and I've seen some various clips and various videos of him interacting with these guys, and he knows how to reach them. Like that's the one thing that I noticed in watching a lot of clips on him is that he's kind of a coach's coach, and he can, even at his age, he knows how to relate to these guys. He knows how to coach these guys up, and they respect him and they listen to him. And the fruits of their labor are coming to fruition on the court. With them being in third place in the West right now. So yeah, he's my coach of the year. Okay.
Before all the wickedness and madness happened, Jacques Vaughn. Because me and you, we were both on the same page. Jacques Vaughn, we thought Jacques Vaughn after the bubble should have been a strong contender for the Nets job. And
they just extended him. They just gave him the job. They gave him an extension today. So
see, and there you go. Jacques Vaughn, I thought good things come to people that way. Jacques Vaughn, what he had did with Brooklyn in terms of that, I think they had the best 20-game stretch in Nets history under him. Once he took over, you saw the noticeably difference in their defense, in their effort. It was no drama, no chaos going on, and then obviously,
Yeah.
obviously,
Boom.
yeah, there you go. Boom, boom, boom is the right one word. That's the one word to describe it. Where Kyrie and then KD. So Jock Vaughn, but I still thought Jock Vaughn, up until that moment, he had a probably my leading candidate, him, Mike Brown, like my leading candidate for Coach of the Year, because you looked at Steve Nash got fired, a lot of intense focus and pressure on the Nets and that organization and Kyrie, KD, and he stepped up to the plate when he had his dudes healthy. And they're still roaming and floating around in playoff territory. So if he can keep the Nets in like playoff territory afloat and they're not drowning, he could probably get some consideration. But I think Mike Brown definitely is probably the lead guy.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he deserves some consideration. I do think that they will still make the playoffs.
Huh.
And crazy enough, not to venture too far off topic, but if they can get a big name free agent to go there next year, they got a lot of great pieces. They got a lot of great pieces.
They do.
Like they just don't have the guy, a star.
Literally.
But they got a lot of great pieces. You know what I'm saying? I kind of like what they did with those trades. Let's do this one was tough for me. Let's do Defensive Player of the Year. Ooh. This one was really tough for me. I'll go ahead. So there were a ton of candidates, that you can really put in this thing, and so I thought about Jaren Jackson Jr.
He was my top choice.
I thought about him, but I guess I punished him because I think the last game that he just played just made him eligible to win the award. He's only played about 40 games or something this season.
Oh.
Although that being said, I mean he's leading the league in blocks right now.
Yes.
In blocks per game, excuse me. He's getting about 3.5 blocks a game, and that's something that he's always been good at. I'll also say this, and I may be a little wrong for this. I've always thought Jaren Jackson Jr. was a little bit overrated as a defender. And I say that because I guess, and maybe it's me, maybe I need to really hone in and watch him a little more. I've always felt like he isn't the best one-on-one defender, but he's a hell of a help defender. Like, he'll protect the rim.
That's how Giannis won the award, where he's not like the real Revis, Deion Sanders. He's more like Earl Thomas, Troy Polamalu.
But see, I guess I feel like if need be, he doesn't do it often, but I feel like if need be, like Giannis will get in front of you and strap up, and he's so freakishly athletic that if he gives a slight bit of effort, he's really hard to score on, Yeah. But yeah, I thought about him. I gave Brook Lopez some consideration. But you know what? Ultimately, I went and dug deep, and I went for a name that nobody's talking about. But I said, screw it, I'll give him some love. He's on the Brooklyn Nets, and I chose Nick Claxton. He's a guy. So he's averaging about 13 a game and 9 rebounds. I mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. is leading the league in blocks, but Nick Claxton's second. He's getting about 2.5 blocks a game, and I think you really seen him kind of. I don't want to call him undersized because he is 6'11", but he's really slender. He's almost built like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But you seen him, for a team that really wasn't that physical, still isn't that physical, still lacks size and physicality. You see him really kind of be the defensive anchor for them. You know what I'm saying? He's a really solid help defender. He's a really solid on-ball defender. If you watch him, year by year, he's improved in his pick and roll defense. So, and on a team, like I said, that really struggled defensively, they were kind of even up until, KD and Kyrie leaving, they had gotten up to right around middle of the pack defensively. And ultimately, I think that's what really helped them, really win those 18 of 20 games. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, man, I went with Nick Claxton, man. I want to show him a little love. Do I think he'll win the award? Probably not. They'll probably give it to Jaren Jackson Jr. as long as he stays healthy. But personally, I wanted to show Nick Claxton some love, so that's my pick.
Well, I'm gonna go with Bam. I'm gonna go with Bam Adebayo.
Oh, great pick. Another great pick.
I'm gonna go with Bam Adebayo. I'm gonna go with Bam merely statistically. I think he's averaging 0.8 blocks per game. I think like a steal per game. So like statistically, you look at this.
And I was looking too. He has a top 5. He has a top 5 defensive rating of any player in the league. I was looking at him.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So and it kind of goes into my point that I'm gonna make, where I think he's one of the more versatile, not only bigs in this league in terms of defending, but one of the more versatile just players defensively in this league that has offered. I think Eric Spoelstra, I thought they called out. I think last year they were like, Bam should have won it last year. I think
he had an argument.
Yeah, I think like a great defender like Bam, I think year in, year out, like he's gonna always have an argument. There's no real like set criteria that people really hone on to in terms of talking about defensive player of the year. But I just look at, we talked about the two other guys that we mentioned before you gave Nick Claxton. We talked about Jaren Jackson Jr. and then Brook Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Bam. I think Bam could fulfill their roles easily. What they do,
yeah, absolutely.
What they their squad, and it's not to diminish what they do, but it more so holds in, and it kind of signifies how versatile Bam is as a defender. So I look at what Brook does for Milwaukee. I look at what Jaren Jackson does for Memphis. Bam could do those things. I don't know if Brook and Jaren Jackson could do what Miami asks of Bam Adebayo.
Yeah,
I don't think they can.
I agree. Also,
Bam has played. You talked about Jaren Jackson and his lack of games that he's just played, and he's just become eligible. Bam has played twice the minutes of Jaren Jackson Jr. So I always say I'm a big believer in. I don't say it as much anymore because I guess it's kind of become cliche, but it still remains true. The best ability is availability.
Absolutely.
The best ability is availability. So I think the mere fact that Bam has played twice the minutes that Jaren Jackson has played, and like you just added, Jaren Jackson just became eligible to. I think you got to go with Bam.
That is a great pick, and I think you mentioned something that's really key in terms of both guys with Jaren Jackson and Brook Lopez. I don't think that they can do what they ask of Bam Adebayo in Miami either. Yeah. I think, and I say this a lot, I think defensively, I think Bam Adebayo is the prototypical big defensively. And the reason I say that is because better than any other, big in the league, 4 or 5 better than any other big in the league, and maybe you could throw Anthony Davis in this conversation, but better than any other big in the league, you can put him in the pick and roll, and you can literally switch him on anyone and feel completely confident about it. Whether it's a point guard, a shooting guard, you can literally switch that ball screen and have no fear about it because as bigs, they can move both of those guys. AD, Bam. They both are really nimble of foot. They can both move their feet. They both have the ability to stay in front of all of these shifty guards nowadays. They're both long. I think, they're both great. I'll give one more name that's good at that, and he's been battling some injury problems. Quietly, though, Clint Capella is another guy who's really good at playing a pick and roll. Yeah. And guys like that they're invaluable in the league right now because everybody's running a pick and roll. Everybody's trying to create mismatches.
Every play.
Yeah, everybody's trying to create mismatches, and to have a guy like Bam Adebayo who you can so confidently switch a screen and not think twice about it with him on an island against a Trae Young, a Donovan Mitchell, or any of those elite guys out in one-on-one guys out in the East, man. So that is a really, really, really good pick. All right, 2 more. Who is your 6th man of the year?
Once again, kind of similar. I have two guys I really want to throw out.
Okay.
First, I'm gonna throw out Norman Powell. I've always liked Norman Powell. Me and my me and a couple people, we make fun of like Norman Powell, like cause the name like Norman Powell. Like I don't know, like Norman, like you just look at him like
talk about Norman.
He looks like a Norman. So Norman Powell, he's
well, y'all ain't no good
points per game. He's averaging 17 points per game. So he's not he's a guy that he's instant offense. He's always been a pretty efficient shooter, knockdown shooter. He's shooting 48% from the field, 41% from three, 80% from the free throw line. And also not only offensively, he gives you 17, 18 points per night on good shooting splits, but then you look at he can guard the 2 and the 3. He's a guy that's what I think the Clippers I can't wait to see this Western. Like the teams for me in the Western Conference that I can't wait to see in the playoffs is like the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Suns. Like
obviously they picked up Russell Westbrook, the Clippers.
Right. I love the versatility that the Clippers can show and throw out to different teams in different matchups. And Norman Powell, a lot of times he's going to be within those lineups. He's going to be within those lineups because he can play both sides. He can shoot the ball effectively and efficiently. He gives you offense. And then another guy I wanted to throw out there, Malcolm Brogdon of the Boston Celtics. Just only I think he plays about 24. He don't get like heavy minutes. He plays about 24 minutes a game. But in that time, he's averaging 14, 4, and 4, and he's shooting 45% from three. So I think the Celtics, and that's another thing. Kind of like the Celtics, they live by the three, they die by the three.
Yes, sir.
Like when they shoot the three at an alarming clip and rate, they are damn near unbeatable to beat. When they don't shoot the three well, they're very susceptible to being beat any given night, any team. So I look at Boston and you look at Brogdon and what he's bringing. I thought last year we talked about this after the finals. We thought they needed another ball handler, another guy, another game manager, another point guard, a floor general that can set things up, but also get his shot when he needs to and get it effectively. That's been Malcolm Brogdon. So I think those two guys, they deserve some consideration. If I had to pick one guy, I'd probably go with Norman Powell.
I think both of those guys that you picked are really, really good picks, especially seeing how both of them are on teams that are really right in the thick of playoff races. Yeah, really on two contenders. But, kind of similar to the Defensive Player of the Year, I wanted to go a little bit offbeat, off the norm, and, pick a guy that probably wouldn't get love, probably won't win the award, but I just want to show him some love. Obviously, another guy that I thought about is one of the more obvious guys in Russell Westbrook and what he was doing, coming off the bench for the Lakers.
For sure.
But ultimately, and this pick might surprise you, but let me say that before they had an injury to Tyrese Halliburton, the Indiana Pacers were 4th or 5th in the East. And speaking of rookies, they got a rookie on their team by the name of Ben Mathurin. And I wanted to give him some love as far as a sixth man of the year.
He's nice. That was another kid that I really, really like. I love Mathurin's game.
Yeah, man. I do too, man. I know, and he's another kid I watched when he was at Arizona, I watched him, and you can see the talent there, but I guess for me, I thought he was a little bit of a tweener. Like I couldn't really tell if he was a 1 or a 2, but I guess ultimately he's just a scorer, the point blank period. He just puts the ball in the bucket, man. Yes. And on the season, he's getting about 17. Yeah, he's getting 17 points, 4 rebounds a game. He's shooting about 43% from the field and 32% from three. He's had some really big games, man. The kid can fill it up, man.
He's an electric finisher.
He is, and he is extremely confident. This is the same guy that said, LeBron's gonna have to prove to me that he's he is who he is. This is the same guy that said that before he played a game in the NBA. Kid is extremely confident, and he's having a phenomenal year, man. I think he's second among rookies in scoring, obviously behind Paolo Banchero. He'll definitely be an all rookie first team member. And yeah, I just wanted to give him some love on an Indiana Pacer team that, like I said, Tyrese Halliburton had the injury and they fell all the way back. So they're 11th in the East now. I think once Halliburton get back, crazy enough, I still think they're going to make at least a play in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Ben Mathurin has been I think he's been a very pleasant surprise for them. Yeah, he's really confident, a really great shooter, really great, like you said, finishes well around the rim. And you know, there's there's obviously some things that he needs to improve on in his game as far as really being a playmaker and, you know, being maybe in order for him to maybe reach superstar status, possibly he's going to have to be more than just a one trick pony, because right now that's just what he does. He's instant offense. And that can be his niche in the league, you know, not knocking it. He can have a career like that. But I think ultimately, if he wants to reach that next level as a player, he's going to have to hone his game a little bit more and become more than just a scorer. But I wanted to give him some love as far as, you know, being a possible 6th man of the year candidate. So, yeah, I went with Ben Mathurin, man. But I think ultimately one of the guys that you mentioned, I'll probably say Norman Powell as well. Come the end of the season, you might see him get that award. All right. And I think last but not least, the big one, the biggest one of them all, the most valuable player. So right now, about 3/4 of the way through the season. Oh, excuse me. We didn't do most improved. I don't even think I came up with a guy for most improved. But who do you no who do you got though? Who do you think?
I was thinking either Shai.
Oh, yes, sir.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I love his game. I just think he got OKC, and you know they've been missing Chet practically for the whole year, so we missed out on his rookie year essentially, but he's been holding it really down. So I think Shai is a guy, and a guy that I got mixed feelings about, but I think he's starting to get somewhat of a groove. Michael Porter Jr. Now, now you talked about Ben Mathurin, and he's very, very confident. Michael Porter Jr. I tell you, when I watch
he don't see a shot that he don't like, boy.
He never seen.
He gonna let it fly.
I mean, I could be watching a Nuggets game, and you know, Jokic does his thing. Jokic passes it to to somebody else, and then they give it to Michael Porter Jr. and he just he doesn't hesitate. He lets it go. So he never seen a shot that he did not like. But he's averaging about 17 points per game, shooting 40% from 3. I think I'm still waiting for. I would give it to SGA because I'm still waiting for Michael Porter Jr. to take that all-star thing.
Yeah. And which I think a lot of us thought he would, and I don't know, maybe the injuries may ultimately hold him back. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but yeah, he lets it's so hilarious. His play style, I love it, and like he's a gunner at heart. But I just think it's so funny that every time he gets it, he doesn't even think about passing it.
So I think. Obviously, both of those are really good picks, especially SGA, man. And I think I was saying this one Saturday in the chat, man. I was so wrong about him, man. Like, when he was at Kentucky, I just did not see it, man.
But it's okay. I didn't see it either.
I didn't see it either. So wrong about him.
I think Kentucky, that was a down year for Kentucky. They weren't great. He was like, you asked me how I felt about SGA. I was like, it was like.
And I think I'll say this before I tell you the person that just came to mind for me. I think that it really helped him. I think that was his second year in the league, or really early in his career. He got to play that year with Chris Paul. I think that was in OKC. I want to say that was maybe year 2 for him.
I think that was the bubble year.
Yeah, that was the bubble year, because I think he was with the Clippers first, if I'm not mistaken.
And then he got traded.
And then to OKC. So I think that was the bubble year when that 1 year with Chris Paul. I think that did wonders for him. Yeah. And I think that's where you really started to see, slight improvements. But man, I mean, the man got a bag, bro. Like,
vicious.
The man just Whew, Lord, you know what I'm saying? They got some nice little pieces there, you know what I'm saying? And they get Chet back next year. We'll see where they will. They probably won't be in the Wembanyama sweepstakes because they're in 10th place in the West right now. But yeah, that's a good pick. I'm gonna tell you who I thought about just sitting here while you were talking though for most improved. And some people argue he should have been the All-Star this year, but that's Aaron Gordon with Denver. He's having a really good year. He's been very impactful for that Denver Nuggets team. He's getting 17 and 7 rebounds right now, shooting about 44% from the field, 27% from three. I think that he's been, like I said, he's been extremely impactful for that team. And I think that he complements Jokic so well. Like him being able to knock down the open jump shot now. He's expanded his game so that his jump shot's reliable now. He's such an athlete. He cuts and dives to the rim.
Yeah.
Exactly. He cuts and dives to the rim so wonderfully, and Jokic's always feeding him. And while you were talking, that was just the one name that I thought about for most improved, man. I think Aaron Gordon is really having a great year. Like I said, some people argue he should have been an All-Star, and he had an argument for All-Star. But yeah, man, I went with I think if I'm not mistaken, Jaren Jackson Jr. made the All-Star team.
He did. As a replacement.
And I think that was one of the arguments that you know, if they picked him, you know, Aaron Gordon has obviously played more games. The stats are similar,
right?
But yeah, just off the top of my head, that was that's probably the person I thought about, Aaron Gordon. Now, last but not least, NBA MVP thus far, 3/4 of the way through the season. Who do you got?
Man, it'll be incredible to see, because people, I often hear like former NBA journalists talk about how Bird won 3 straight MVPs, and it was just like undeniable that like he was the best player in basketball, like that stretch. But I gotta go with Giannis. I gotta go with Giannis.
Okay, that's not a bad pick at all.
I mean, I have to go with Giannis. I feel like with Giannis, first, Chris Middleton, I think, has played only 17 games for the Bucks this year. And I've never been a huge fan of Chris Middleton, but the championship run kind of like brought me into him a little bit more. Okay. And I see like even last year where they didn't have him in the Boston series. Huge integral part of what they do offensively, because when you think of Milwaukee, even when they won their championship, the championship year, you think of their historically great defense with Brook Lopez, Jrue Holiday, Giannis roaming the floor. You think of how good historically defensively they are. So offensively, at times, you catch them at the wrong night, they can leave a lot to be desired.
Stinker, yeah.
They can leave a lot to be desired offensively. So I think the mere fact that Giannis, I think they're a half game behind Boston. Boston's 42-17, Milwaukee's 41-17. Giannis put up his numbers, but Giannis obviously his numbers are freakishly good. He's averaging 31 points per game, nearly 32 points per night, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, good shooting splits. I just don't. For me, I just look at Giannis and what he's doing in this, what started out as a loaded Eastern Conference in terms of the top end at least. Yeah. And, you know, Boston getting on to such a hot start and can like just go on continuing. And the mere fact that Giannis still has Milwaukee at knocking on the door, not even knocking, like right there on Boston's tail, like right there on Boston's ass. Yeah. I just feel like
took him to 7 games last year without Middleton.
He took him to 7 games without Middleton. Now Middleton has missed more than half of the season so far. I just can't overlook Giannis, and I just feel like I think there's at times it's weird because in my opinion the MVP voting, they've done it wrong. I thought the first time that Jokic won it, I thought Giannis should have won it. And it's like they picked the wrong guy each year. Like the second time that Giannis won it, I don't know if he should have won it. The first time Jokic won it
last year. Yeah. You said that. Oh, sorry. You said the second time Giannis won it and the first time Jokic won it.
Yeah, I thought it should
gotcha.
have been flop.
So okay, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
It's I think it's weird and it's really calculated how the voters vote. Because we all know voter fatigue comes into play.
Yeah.
But I thought Giannis very well had an argument after winning his second. I thought after he won his second MVP, I thought the year next, like the year next,
which I think that would have been Jokic's first year winning it. Yeah.
Right. I thought Giannis had a better year than he did the year he won his second. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I think it's really weird and controversial how they do the voting and what guy they vote for and what particular year and what metrics they look at. I don't know. I think it should be Giannis, though, because just off the fact that he's been missing his second best player for more than half of the season, he still has the best record in the league.
So, and obviously that's not a bad pick at all. Not a bad decision at all. FYI, he said he loved a Mavs shirt. Jokic isn't a bad pick at all. I think this is one of those years where, especially like the first maybe quarter, the halfway mark of the season, this was one of those years where there were a bunch of guys that you could really say were MVP caliber. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Obviously, Giannis, Jokic, Luka. You know, even before Kevin Durant got hurt. I mean, Kevin Durant was right there in the conversation. But I mean, at the end of the day, I bit the bait, man. I gotta go with Jokic, man. Like I think he's gonna be the first 3-time consecutive MVP since Larry Bird did it in the 80s.
Yeah. That's huge.
The man is at what 24, 11, and 10. He's averaging a triple-double right now. He's third in the league in assists. He's 7 feet tall. He's their center, bro. Like, and it's crazy. And Kenny can attest to this. You know, he and I, you know, we were in the service together. We served together, and that's kind of where we came up with this idea for the podcast, because, you know, we were out to sea and we'd be out to sea and we get done working and then we would just go at it, just debating, you know, me, him, and guys would join in. But he can attest to this. And I said this was like 2019, 2020, you know, and people thought I was crazy, downright nuts for saying this. I said then that Jokic was the best passing big man we had ever seen in the NBA. I said this in like 2019, 2020. People looked at me like I was crazy. And now it's like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion, you know. Yeah, and I said that 3-4 years ago, bro, because, you know, and it's been some great passing big men, you know, Sabonis and D-Wop. I think Chris Webber was an underrated passer. Tim Duncan. Like, there's been some really good passing big men. But we've never seen a true center legit run the offense. Like, the Nuggets don't have a point guard. Like, they don't have a, you know, they start Jamal Murray at the one. They don't have a point guard.
Yeah.
You know, when Jokic gets the ball off the rim, he's running it up the court. When a team scores, they inbound the ball to Nikola Jokic, and he's bringing it up the court, setting guys up. When they're in the half-court offense, they dump it to him off that elbow or on the block. If they dump it to him off the elbow and they just run all these rub routes and whatever off of him, or they're dumping to him on the block and they just play off of him. Like, their offense is centered around. He is literally their playmaker. He literally runs their offense. And we have never seen that from a true 7-footer. And here he is. He's about to be probably the first. I'm not sure if maybe Wilt did it on some crazy statistical stuff, but he very possibly could be the first 7-footer to average a triple-double. And they're the number 1 team in the Western Conference. Like, and they've still been battling injuries, because I don't think Jamal Murray is back to being Jamal Murray yet, although of late he's shown some strides. Yeah. You talk about Porter Jr. I mean, I don't think he's back to 100% yet, but yeah, I fell for the bait, man. I took Jokic.
Okay, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Not saying that I agree with this argument. But what do you say to the argument where people pose, what's the difference between Russell Westbrook putting up 3 straight seasons of triple doubles and what we're seeing from Nikola Jokic these past 3 years, assuming that he wins MVP? What's the difference?
All right, so I'm gonna be a little critical here.
Because I'll probably agree with, like I said, I will probably, whatever you're about to say, I will probably agree with you, but I just want to just throw out devil's advocate because I know there's been people that pose that question.
No, that's good. So I'm gonna be a little critical here.
Okay.
First of all, I don't want to rain on Russell Westbrook's parade because to be a 6'3", 6'4" guard and to average a triple double, to even be able to get that amount of rebounds, that has to attest to, no matter what Steven Adams has admitted, that still has to attest to, you got to have one hell of a motor to even go after that like that. You know what I'm saying? For a complete season. So I don't want to rain on his parade. You know, what he did was phenomenal, you know. But I think that, I hate to say this. First of all, I think his usage rate is sky high. Well, was sky high. Russell Westbrook. Secondly, and it's crazy to say this for a team that made the playoffs, but his triple doubles just didn't have the impact on their win-loss as a team in the manner that Jokic does. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it sucks that I'm gonna say this. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple double to fill up a stat sheet, whereas I think Jokic averages a triple double without forcing anything offensively, and he truly does it to win games. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Russell Westbrook was doing a lot of stat padding during that time, you know, and it just doesn't. I don't think he almost single-handedly made the triple double irrelevant. Yeah, because I mean, it was just he was averaging triple doubles, but his plus minus once again was like -10. Like, how does that equate?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You go out there.
You had a good like through and through a good basketball game. You played a good basketball game.
Exactly. Like you got 31, 16 rebounds, 11 assists, but you had 8 turnovers, and your plus minus is -10. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it would be a lot of that during that season. You know what I'm saying? Jokic is much more efficient with his triple doubles. You know what I'm saying? And he's not. And then if you watch him too, he's getting a lot of those, as I like to call them, a lot of those Jason Kidd triple doubles too, where you'll see him, 16, 11, and 10 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's getting a lot of those Jason Kidd triple doubles. Russell Westbrook was out there filling up a stat sheet. Okay, 31, 16, and 14. You know what I'm saying? Every night. You know what I'm saying? And they barely win in the game. And I mean, once again, I don't want to rain on his parade because, like I said, it takes a hell of a motor on a 6'3", 6'4" guard to be able to go out there night in and night out. I think he played the majority of the games that year, and he didn't necessarily have a ton of help around him. And he did that, man. Like, it takes a heck of a motor to go get those rebounds, and he did that. I don't want to rain on his parade, but he's never been an efficient player. Jokic is doing this efficiently within the confines of the offense, and it's having a direct impact on their win-loss, more so than I think Russell Westbrook's did during his time doing it. Yeah. Yeah. And then you look, I mean, what I think the next year they got Paul George, and then one of those years he had Paul George and Carmelo. I mean, granted, Carmelo was probably on the back end of his career, but
they got bounced in the first round.
Like, yeah, all those they were getting bounced in the first round. The only since Kevin Durant has left Russell Westbrook, the only time he's been past the first round was in the bubble when he was with Houston and he had James Harden was the best player on that team. Right. So, I mean, yeah, I guess Jokic is just doing it so much more efficiently, and I think that it's just having so much more of an impact on his team's
team
win and
success.
loss record, on their team success, man.
Yeah.
And I wish Russell Westbrook the best. I think he's going into a situation with the Clippers where he's going to get a lot of time because he's their only point guard. And ultimately, I do think it was the best decision for him, especially if he's trying to win and get a ring. But I mean, it could be a gift and a curse because he's going to get a lot of time. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and he isn't known to be the best decision maker. Right. Like I said, I mean, it's hard to see any difference in this game between year 1 and year 13 or 14, whatever he's in now.
Right. Absolutely.
So, we'll see, man. But yeah, those were our NBA mid-season award picks. Once again, another great show, man. You know what, and this happens with me and Kenny, man. We always look, we be like, all right, we're gonna hit this, boom, this, that, and the third. We look up. Me and Kenny could go though. Me and Kenny look up. We be well over 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like this is supposed to be a quick show. We've been on hour 40-some minutes already, man. But yeah. Once again, another great show, man. It's always great to have you on, and I want to give you a chance to shout yourself out and shout out your podcast, man. So go ahead and, you know what I'm saying, pat yourself on the back, you know what I'm saying, and go and get everybody the particulars.
Yeah, well, we go through the routine, but you can find my podcast. It's called the Isaiah Kid Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you like, any app you listen to a podcast. I'm sure my podcast will pop up. So a rating, a comment, so forth. I know Spotify, they have like this new like Q&A section. So if I pose a question promptly, you can answer and I reply to it, or I might talk about it on the pod. So yeah, you can find my podcast, Isaiah Kid Podcast. Like I said, Apple, Spotify, so forth, any other app that you guys may use to listen or watch a podcast.
Word. And then as far as if they want to catch you on Instagram or whatever, what's your Instagram handle?
Instagram handle Zay. So it's Zay _ it's Zay with 2 Y's _.x. And then on Twitter, it's at Isaiah Kid Pod. So yeah, you can find me. I tweet here and there about certain things and so forth. And we're gonna be ramping it up. You can I sometimes put out, Twitter or IG. I put out some quarterback tape and videos and so forth. Just diagnosing.
He's really great when it comes to because the draft's coming up, man, and he is absolutely phenomenal at that, guys, man. So definitely check him out, man. And then that's ZAYY.
Yep, YY _.x. You can find that on Instagram and then Twitter at Isaiah Kid Pod. So yeah.
Word. And y'all already know, man, Rooted in Sports, man. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram. That's simply at Rooted in Sports as well. You can give me a follow personally on Instagram. That's iSwan _0623. Once again, that's iSwan _0623. Go ahead and be on the lookout for the Sportsclusive podcast from our boy King Tiberius. I'm sure. I think he probably left now. I think he drops every Wednesday, so it should be another episode. Should be something coming tomorrow, so y'all be on the lookout for that. The Sportsclusive podcast. Go ahead, like and subscribe to that on YouTube as well. And then obviously his Instagram handle is Tiberius 519 on Instagram. That's Tiberius 519. We got the Rooted in Sports community over Twitter Spaces. Guys, feel free. Both of us are in there. Both you can come here. Both of us, and everybody else in there going nuts. So it's really cool. It's really fun. We had a really great chat on Saturday too. So yeah, we got the Rooted in Sports community over Twitter Spaces, and we'll be right back here next Tuesday, Rooted in Sports Tuesday. Also, be on the lookout pretty soon. We're gonna have a lot of NBA content coming for you. You're gonna see us diving into our NBA draft content and possibly moving back to Mondays. We working it out. We'll let you guys know. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate everyone that's going to tune in. We will catch you guys next Tuesday. There it is. Swan done. Isaiah Kid. Much love. God bless. We'll catch y'all next week.